Do you get back pain when you sit because of the anterior pelvic tilt? By the end of this video, you will learn how to use your hip muscles to control your pelvis in sitting instead of using your back and straining your back so that you can sit more comfortably. You might also be interested in watching my previous video right here, so you can check it out at the link below. If you want to learn how to retrain your body and then movement safely and then effectively and then move better, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every week. I am Taro Iwamoto. I am a Feldenkrais practitioner with my background in athletic training, physical therapy, martial arts, and the Feldenkrais method. I have helped many people like you overcome and then move beyond the pain and the limitations. Now it's your turn, and let's dive in. So what is the anterior pelvic tilt? I talked about it in my previous video also, but let's just quickly talk about what the anterior pelvic tilt is. Anterior pelvic tilt in sitting particularly is that it describes the position of the pelvis relative to your thigh bones, your femurs, or a direction of the movement of your pelvis. Moving anteriorly meaning moving forward. So what that looks like is, if you watch my back, here, so the pelvis is moving forward directions, which causes the lower back, your lumbar spine, to extend or arch, right? So I'm exaggerating that anterior pelvic tilt, but that's what it looks like. And again, I'm going to point it out, and that just because you have an anterior pelvic tilt, it doesn't mean that anterior pelvic tilt is going to cause the pain. In fact, many people with anterior pelvic tilt have no back pain whatsoever. But it can't strain your back over time if you are stuck in anterior pelvic tilt. And so that's why I want to talk about in this video. And why is it important? And to learn how to use your hips and to control the movement of the pelvis so that you can easily move in and out of the anterior pelvic tilt. So let's talk about how to make your back more comfortable in sitting. So how to control the pelvis in sitting? There are two different strategies to control the movement of the pelvis, position of the pelvis. And I do think that the anterior pelvic tilt, people are very conscious about the posture. They're trying to make themselves to be so upright. And then in effort to do that, they try to control the movement of the pelvis, or the position of the pelvis, by using the back extensors way too much. And so I'm trying to make my spine straight. And the way that I'm doing that right now is I am contracting my back muscles and to keep my spine in an exaggerate posture, right? In an overly extended posture. But it is pretty common when you're conscious about being upright and then too much effort. So that is how you get a little bit more discomfort over time in your lower back, because you are constantly engaging your back muscles, extensors. And whether this is your habitual strategy or not, let's just do this movements of rolling the pelvis and moving the pelvis into the anterior pelvic tilt, and by intentionally extending and then contracting your back extensors. But of course, this is already painful, and don't make it more painful. But if you are feeling okay at the moment, and so that you can actually feel your effort in your lower back area. Then if you do, as you exaggerate that contraction on your extensors, and can you imagine that doing for a long period of time as you are sitting in a classroom and then trying to really engage in your back muscles to be upright? Not very, very comfortable, right? So that's one strategy, is to do that. So now that you've felt a conscious effort in your lower back area by using extensors and trying to maintain or make your spine more upright. And let's talk about another strategy, which is my preferred strategies, using the hips to control the movement of the pelvis. It makes a big difference. So I'm going to have you actually start with a slightly more slouch position. So allow your pelvis to roll backwards a little bit. So you're going to round your back. It is okay to round your back in a slouch. Okay, and so this is a posterior pelvic tilt directions. The pelvis is moving posteriorly or backward directions, which is going to cause the spine, lower back, to flex or round, opposite direction from the anterior pelvic tilt. So first, let's just move your pelvis into the posterior pelvic tilt and round your spine a little bit. All right, so starting from here, the first strategy was using the extensors to bring yourself into neutral or more upright posture by using your extensors. That's the first strategies. Very, very common, right? But the better strategy is using your hips. The way to do that is you think about lightening the weight of your feet. I mean, almost as if you're going to lift your feet, but you don't quite lift your feet. As you're starting to take the weight off of your feet, what will happen is you feel that your hip flexors is going to start to pull your pelvis into the neutral positions, which will bring the spine into the upright posture. Okay, roll your pelvis back and then starting in the posterior pelvic tilt directions again. Okay, so think about, or you can think about pulling your pelvis towards your thigh bones. Okay, so think about the thigh bone is going to pull the pelvis towards the thigh bones. So that's the hip flexors. Whichever works better for you. So you can either think about lightening your feet, taking the pressure off of your feet, but don't lift them, that's too much. As you begin to take the pressure off of your feet, that is going to pull the pelvis forward. That's an anterior pelvic directions. So you notice as you are actually using your hip muscles, hip flexors, to control the movement of your pelvis. There's much less effort and contraction in your low back, although you might still feel activities in the low back, but compared to how you did it initially in the previous strategies, which is using the back extensors mostly. Now you are initiating the movement from your hip flexors. Okay? So you can think about if you feel like you are being slouched and sitting for a while, and then you're conscious about sitting a little bit more upright. And the way that you do that without straining your back is you think about engaging and pulling from your hip flexors instead of making an effort from your low back. Really, you think about what the lower back and then the back extension does is it extends the back. It has really nothing to do with the hip or the pelvis, right? It only does this. And therefore, if you're thinking about sitting more upright, and think about how you engage your hips. And once you bring the pelvis into the neutral, there's really no need for the hip flexors to continue to work. Therefore, you can be in upright, good posture without really feeling an effort in your back, without constantly engaging your back muscles. Therefore, even though your posture still looks really, really nice and upright, but then there is much, much less effort in your low back because you are not really engaging your back muscles, right? So you're just learning to control the pelvis. And as you're feeling a little tired, slouching back, and then you want to make yourself a little bit more upright, and then simply just lightening your feet or engaging hip flexors muscles to control the pelvis here. And then you can move in and then out of that positions. So again, anterior pelvic tilt is not necessarily a bad thing. You can be in an anterior pelvic tilt, but getting stuck in an anterior pelvic tilt or posterior pelvic tilt, in that matter, is not really ideal because you're stressing a certain part of the body, joints, ligaments, and muscles and tendons and all those tissues are constantly being stressed in the same way over and over and over because you are getting stuck in that same place. So it is good to be able to move in and out of that positions, but also it's good to think about how to get there and how to get in and out of the position. So how you do that, different strategies, using the back or using the hips. And I do think that using the hip is much more efficient way to move the pelvis. So comment below which was your habitual movement pattern. Do you normally use the hips to control the pelvis, or do you habitually use the back? Were you using your back muscles to control the pelvis more? So now that you know that the different options, and then you can explore different ways to do that, then I do recommend that you are going to practice how to use the hip muscles to control the movement of the pelvis, so that you can get in and out of the position and you can get into the nice upright posture without straining your back. If you want to improve your back pain, be sure to grab your free movement guide to pain-free back at the link below. Check out these videos, and if you like this video, and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe and share with your friends. Comment below how helpful you found this video was. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Happy mindful movement. Bye bye.